All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Voyager class Grimwing. Yeah, another Predacon from the Transformers Prime toy line, and it's a fairly decent figure, a little bit basic, but you know that's all right. He turns into a not quite a dragon. They call it an ursagryph, which I guess is kind of like a griffin, but instead of a lion, it's a bear, which is kind of a cool design here. I do like the beast mode. It's a neat little design there. Like I said last time, all of the alt modes for the Predacons and Transformers Prime, they're all dragon-esque, but they're not all necessarily literally dragons. But yeah, no, it's a fairly decent a little ursagryph mode. I do really like the kind of like birdie head sculpt there. It's very nice. He does come with this strange sort of weapon who they've actually named. This is Blackbeak. He's a separate character unto himself, which is a little strange. And yeah, it has this whole gimmick where it has this sort of like grappling hook type thing where you take this little panel with the spike off the back and it kind of like unwinds here. And then when you actually press this piece in forward, it actually is, supposed to shoot out like a grappling hook. But yeah, oh, there we go. Kind of works there. And it's kind of just jutting out of his mouth there. And then even this guy kind of looks like he's got like little head and eyes unto himself, so I don't know exactly what's going on there, but yeah, always kind of a strange accessory. I don't usually tend to keep this with him just because I don't know, it's a little bit weird to me. I don't really like it, but it's all right. And then yeah, it's kind of annoying too because this panel doesn't like really stay pegged into place all that securely, so if you want to like actually wind up the rope here so it's not like a pain to just kind of like store, it doesn't always stay in place and then kind of ends up coming undone. But it's fairly tidy if you actually wrap it up like that. In terms of storage in this mode, what you can do is you can just peg it into one of the ports on this back here. Yeah, you can see what I'm saying. This also just kind of comes undone sometimes. But yeah, I don't really like it stored on the ursagryph mode. I guess it doesn't really work in that back one because there's not the clearance, so you kind of have to put it on top here. I don't know, just kind of muddies it up to me. Again, I don't really like this gun, but it's kind of a neat idea, I guess. And it's nice that it has that kind of like grappling hook functionality. It's kind of cool. It's just not my cup of tea. In terms of articulation in this mode, the bird head here is on a ball joint, so it can kind of rotate around like that and kind of look back and forth minorly. It's also on a hinge for kind of transformation, so you can kind of adjust the sort of height of the head here and how like sort of streamlined it is with the rest of the body. The mouth is also on a hinge, or the beak I should say, so it can open up like that. The wings, they just kind of fold in and out like that, and the only bit of spread that they have is these sort of like secondary kind of lighter green pieces that can spread out, but that's about it. The front legs, as you I'm sure have guessed by now, just end up being the robot mode arms. So the shoulders here are on universal joints. I guess they kind of get stuck at a certain point. I've never really noticed that before. And then they can kind of hinge out to the side. Also, these shoulder pads can kind of move independently. It's got an elbow, or I guess in this mode, knee joint, a below the knee kind of swivel there, which is, not really. Oh, no, actually, that's not true. He's got a separate. He's got both. He's got a proper bicep / thigh swivel here, and then also a below the knee / elbow swivel here, which is not totally necessary because there is also a wrist swivel or a ankle swivel, I guess, in this mode. And you can also hinge the hands up and down like that, or the feet, whatever. You know what I mean. And then the thumb / toes can also hinge in and out like that. Then the back legs here are also on universal joints, so they can rotate around and hinge out to the side. Has a thigh swivel up there, double jointed knee. What's kind of strange here is so this knee actually compresses a fair bit, and then it's got this separate knee, which I don't think looks particularly good because it kind of unnecessarily extends out the leg like this and makes it look a little bit less like bare legs. But if you actually have this kind of like collapsed for how it is for robot mode, you can still get it fairly tight towards the ground, and I just feel like that looks a little bit better. That looks a little bit more bear-like, and there's a little bit less sort of like disjointedness in the back leg here. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I just think that looks a little bit better. But to each his own. And the feet are on ball joints, and they can also kind of hinge minorly back a little bit like that. So actually fairly decent articulation in the ursagryph mode. Yeah, that just looks better to me. I don't know. Rather than having the legs kind of extended way back like that. I don't know, matter of preference, but I'm going to leave it like that. In terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe in his robot mode. For a Transformers Prime comparison, here he is with Dead End here, so you can see what he looks like with him. And then here he is with Ripclaw, the previous Dragon Former that we looked at a few days ago. And yeah, I think they look fairly good together. Again, he's a Voyager, she's a Deluxe, so he's a little bit more massy, but they kind of still fit in line with each other. In terms of transformation, the legs, you just kind of want to straighten out, and then again, like if you have this kind of hinged out for how it's supposed to be in ursagryph mode, you just collapse it so it kind of meets like that. The feet, you bring back on that one click just like that, and then you bring down these green panels to actually be the heels for robot mode, and you can kind of extend out the knee here so it sits a little bit more straight, and then just kind of bring it down like that on both sides. Then you want to take this whole section here and kind of collapse it into the body. It's on a bit of a like a clicky slider there, just so it sits a little bit more proportional with how he should be in robot mode. Then the arms here, well, actually, you want to take the wings, and they actually untab from this section here. You kind of like extend them up like this. They lock over these two turquoise tabs there, and then you can take the entire body section and split it like that, which allows you to, kind of bring the arms down, and then obviously just adjust the hands and thumbs there so it sits more like, arms rather than legs. And then you take this whole section, it kind of hinges up like this. Or let me adjust the camera here for a sec. Then you want to take this whole front section here, and you want to bring down the hippogriff head, and then the actual robot mode head. If you take this green section on the back of the neck, you flip that around to reveal the head, and it'll lock in like that. And then you bring this whole section down, and then I'm not totally sure if you're supposed to duck the entire hippogriff head into this section. What I usually do is I open the mouth and just tuck the bottom part of the beak into that section. That seems to make it sit a little bit better, but it doesn't really have a clean locking place either way. And then to actually lock that in place, you take the wings and you fold them back, and now it kind of blocks these joints here so that can't fold up anymore. And then you want to take these little green sections on the chest and kind of adjust them to your liking there. And again, shoulder pads you can adjust to your liking. These bits you can adjust to your liking. I usually leave them out for beast mode and then in for robot mode. But yeah, there we have Grimwing in his robot mode. And yeah, he's a fairly cool looking robot. Definitely a little bit gappy up here in the body, but not the end of the world. And like I said, this stuff doesn't totally feel like it locks in place as cleanly as it ought to. And either you have the head kind of completely ducked into here, which sort of prevents it from pushing down all the way, or you have just the bottom section of the beak kind of locked in here, and it sits a little bit better, but the head doesn't kind of moves around, so it's a little bit haphazard. But yeah, no, fairly decent robot mode, all things considered. I do like the head sculpt there. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so it gets a fairly decent amount of range there. The wings obviously can just hinge in and out, and then you can do those little bits as well. The shoulders still on universal joints. What's kind of neat is just because of the way that the joint is attached, you can actually, it's sort of like not really a Mecha Live, but something along that realm there, where you can actually see the joint moving on the inside there. So it can swivel around like that. Obviously, you can adjust the shoulder pads. If you put them up like this, it does kind of help with the hollow look of the body there. And they can hinge out to the side. It's got a bicep swivel, elbow bend, still has that below the elbow swivel as well as the wrist swivel, and then the wrist hinge, and then the thumb, just the same stuff as it was in the other mode there. Nothing at the waist. Hips can go forward and back and out to the side. Thigh swivel. Again, pretty deep knee bend just because of how it kind of compresses up for transformation. And then the feet, because they're on ball joints, they can get a bit of a tilt there. But, because technically the whole foot includes this section, you're only really getting the actual foot part to rotate there. You're not actually able to adjust the angle of these green bits. So, they kind of end up sitting off the ground. It still mostly works, but it's just a little bit weird looking from certain angles. Yeah, no, fairly decent. Obviously, we can bring on Black Beak here and have him hold the weapon, however. We'll just leave it out like that for now. I don't really feel like twisting up the string again. And yeah, I mean, they share a color scheme, obviously, since they're in the same mold, but, it's still a little kind of like a weird weapon, but yeah, it's got a fun action figure feature, so I can't really, slam it too bad. And then you can also, if you want, plug it onto like the arm. In terms of storage, they still have that, it still has the peg hole on the back there, so you could do that. Kind of sticks up in the back, but, that's not bad. And then in terms of other weaponry, another neat thing that you can do is you can actually take these green bits off the shoulder pads, and they actually unplug like this. And I mean, they don't make like super convincing weapons, but you can have him hold those if you want. I'm not even entirely sure if that's supposed to be like an actual feature or if that's just how those pieces attach to the shoulder pads. But yeah, you've got the options. And then if you think that looks a little bit cleaner, you can also, just take them off for that reason. But still, I don't know. It's unobtrusive, so it doesn't really bother me. And it's just kind of a, even if the weapon is not really all that exciting, at least it's some sort of functionality there. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe. For standard Voyager, here he is with Earthrise Starscream, just so you can see what he looks like with like the Seeker mold, a little bit taller there. But kind of it's one of those ones that has kind of like it's like spread out where the plastic is not super dense, and it does feel hollow in a lot of bits, but it gets to be a little bit bigger because of that. So, to each his own. Here he is with Dead End for that Transformers Prime comparison. And here he is again with Rip Claws. I dropped Sideswipe on the floor. God, the number of times I've dropped that toy specifically on the floor just from using him as the standard comparison in these reviews. It's a good thing he hasn't broken yet. But yeah, that's what they look like together. Again, another pretty good Predacon. I do think that Ripclaw is still better. She just has a little bit more kind of like cleverness in her transformation and a little bit more like uniqueness, whereas he's fairly basic, just like beast former of like just mess with the legs and arms and just like drop him on all fours. But I do like the choice to make him an ursagryph rather than an actual dragon, just for a little bit of variety there. But yeah, no, not really a whole lot else to say about him. Again, pretty basic figure, just what you see is what you get, and that's not bad. But yeah, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Voyager Class Grimwing.